Hello there. Happy Thursday, April 18th, 2024. How are we doing? We are out of our eclipse portal and actually looking at some other wonderful astrology. But I would be curious to hear what's been going on for all of you. I think it's important that we share more about the things that are happening in our lives, particularly when it relates to these different transits, because a lot of people don't understand astrology, and suddenly these big major changes may find their way into our lives. And I think it can be really comforting when we realize, oh, there's something that's responsible for that, or something that's influencing that, and likely it's for my benefit, which frankly, it's hard for me to ever believe something isn't. So please always use the opportunity in any videos that I put up here to please share what's going on in your life, or if you're confused as to how the events in your life might coordinate with some of the astrology. Where this stuff will hit us will be different depending on our actual astrological natal charts. But there are clearly things that are going on more from a collective and global perspective. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The biggest thing, so we've come out of an eclipse cycle. The eclipses have been in the sign of Aries and Libra. I have found this particular eclipse cycle to be really interesting because the North Node, our destiny point, is in the initiating sign of the zodiac, Aries. The other part, which is the South Node, directly opposite, is in Libra. Wherever the South Node is, it's looking to release and let go of things karmically from our past, this lifetime or others, so that we can propel ourselves and move ourselves towards that destiny point that's, if you're looking at a zodiac wheel, it'd be directly across. So when we're in eclipses, there's this bouncing back and forth between these opposing signs. We just had the second eclipse in each of those signs this round. The first Aries eclipse we had was last April. It was April 20th of 2023, and it was at 29 degrees Aries. Then we had our first Libra eclipse, which was in the fall, October 14th. And again, that was a South Node eclipse in Libra at 21 degrees. Then the lunar eclipse we had on March 25th was also in Libra. That one was at 5 degrees Libra. And then the total solar eclipse we just had on the 8th was at 19 degrees Aries. We're going to have one more in Libra this fall. It'll be at 10 degrees Libra, and then we'll have one more in the spring in Aries, and that will be 9 degrees Aries. And then we're going to be complete with what these two signs are really trying to initiate, adjust, create change, in our lives around, these particular areas. So to me, with the North Node, again, being in Aries, it feels like a new beginning, because the North Node is only in a sign, usually it's like I think about every 28 years or so by the time it comes around again. So this is like a big initiation, if you ask me, that really started last spring and will kind of complete itself by next fall, really, actually even next spring, a year from now. So what I find that interesting is that these two, that just happened, these eclipses just happened, we're at the kind of like the peak of this eclipse cycle. And surrounding this eclipse are all these other things that are happening that feel, to me, quite supportive. So the first thing to note, or that I was noticing, is that essentially all of the planets are in three signs. They've been in Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. Those three are in a line. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, Aries the first, and then Taurus follows Aries. So there's a pileup of planets all there, and the rest of the sky is relatively empty, with the exception of the moon. I mean, this is at least the main planetary bodies. There are asteroids and other things that could be in the other signs, but the ones that we're generally paying attention to. So the only one that we are normally paying attention to that's going to even go to the other side because it moves fast enough is the moon. And so where we'll get a better view of what's going on in these three signs is when the moon is going to pull focus in their opposing signs. So that would be Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. Those are the three signs that are going to oppose Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. The moon just went into Virgo. So this is why I wanted to do this video today. Tomorrow, we're going to have more things actually happening as we're leading up to this big conjunction that's happening on Saturday. So in the meantime, though, the other thing that is happening in this particular moment, in this particular month, in the sign of Aries, is Mercury has been retrograding. Now, people don't generally love Mercury retrograding, and I would have to say that probably Mercury retrograding in Aries could be a little tougher in certain regards because Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars likes to move forward and get things done. So for any body in that sign, any planetary body in that sign to be retrograding backwards, it's going to have a little bit of a extra friction probably associated with it. But in this case, it feels very intentional because Mercury was retrograding back to and past where this eclipse went off. So it says to me that, after that eclipse went off, Mercury was going to come back. Not only that, it's going to have a meeting with all these other planets that are in Aries on its way, have what we'd call like basically, this, moment where it's going to meet up with the North Node, meet up with Chiron, who was at the, at that, those are both 2 points that were at that eclipse. So it feels like we're getting further information about what these eclipses are about and how to, initiate it or bring it forth into our life. Mercury will turn around on the 25th. So next week it'll turn around and go direct and, make its way back through the path that it's already been and potentially have another visit or two with some of these planets. So that's one other part I wanted to mention that feels very reflective. When Mercury, the retrograding means to review, revert, revisit. You want to, reflect on the area that it just was in. Make sure we didn't forget anything. Maybe there's something new there that wasn't there when it went the first time that we really want to take on our way as we move our way through our evolutionary path. So that's the Mercury aspect of it. And Mercury is the messenger from the gods. It's the great communicator. It's who's going to provide us our downloads of information from other places. And so for it to also just be doing that and having a visit with all these other planets, in particular, it hit Venus as well as the sun, as well as, I said Chiron and the North Node. So just something to note about this time being a bit reflective. Now, let's see, that's, it was yesterday, today's the 18th. Yesterday, Venus and the North Node came together, which I thought was also really interesting as far as potential, something to do with, Venus topic, either money or relationships in particular, and the North Node, a destiny point. So those two coming together might have had you take an action in that regard. Tomorrow, the Mercury is now going to be meeting with Venus. The sun is going to be moving into Taurus, and Mars is going to be forming a sextile with two planets that are in Taurus. So currently Mars is in Pisces. Last week, Mars in Pisces visited with Saturn, also a big conjunction that, I think was pertinent in this, which, to me is around creating some certain things being held back, but creating some structures for these ways that were being activated. And I think in that case, it was a bit of a spiritual activation. I think that's a bit of what this moment is about for all of us, is that this is a time of new beginnings, for a variety of reasons. We just in January had Pluto leave a sign after being in a sign for essentially 15, years, and it's going to be there for the next 20. So that's a sign of a big chapter. Then we've got these eclipses in Aries, which is another indication of where we've initiated another 28-year, chapter. And all the while Saturn, the planet of structures, is in the very spiritual, ethereal, mystical sign of Pisces, and it's been there for a bit. And now Mars, so these two planets come together, can kind of have some friction, but, I think I was seeing it more as there's like a structure being built around our spirituality, and that we need to bring that forth. We need to activate it, for this next terrain we're going to be traveling through. I see it as an opportunity to raise our vibration, to elevate our consciousness and have an awakening. And this big conjunction that's happening Saturday, which is between Jupiter and Uranus, is, I believe, the big sort of exclamation point to all of this activity that we've been having in Taurus. Those are three different elements. Pisces is water, Aries is fire, and Taurus is earth. So it kind of feels like there's this, everything that's been moving through the water and fire signs is now going to try to ground inside of Taurus. That's what Taurus is, the fertile earth that material things can grow from. And so it feels like this is a moment where any epiphanies we've had, any breakthroughs we've had, any illuminations, any big changes now can start grounding themselves. So let's talk about Saturday. We have those two big planets coming together, and I'll just describe who they are. So, Jupiter is the biggest planet in the sky. And we usually like where Jupiter is in our charts because it tends to be a planet of protection. It's the great benefic. It makes whatever, it's near bigger. It broadens. It wants to explore. It loves to travel. It loves higher consciousness. It likes to learn. It's the great philosopher. But generally Jupiter is, there, and it's concerned with morals and values. And generally speaking, like I said, it's there to it's abundant. It's like it's got this abundance nature to it, as does Taurus. So we love when Jupiter's in Taurus because they both represent abundance, and in particularly in Taurus in the earthly sense. And Jupiter's going to help us grow and expand wherever it is. Well, it's meeting up with Uranus, which is a very different planet. It's an outer planet that we don't see, and it's known, generally speaking, as the big disruptor. It's here to interrupt things. It's the revolutionary planet. It acts like lightning, and it can create changes in our lives similar to that of eclipses, by the way. But its real purpose is for our liberation and our freedom. And, so you bring that great philosopher, Jupiter, and this higher consciousness and this idea of awakening with Uranus, who's here to interrupt and, help liberate us and pave our way forward in a way that is sustainably for our future. We're thinking about our future, and as a result of that, we need to be revolutionary in the way that we're making, the changes, not just in our life, but, collectively and as a society. And I think that unfortunately, we are, like, war is one of these things. War will bring out these aspects of us, of what we believe is right, and what what our morals and values are, and how are we going to take action about this. And I think that, as we have seen, war has been an instrumental aspect of our society for as long as we can remember. And I feel like this is a moment we are really trying to understand and have a breakthrough around this idea that doesn't accomplish anything. Mars is that planet of war. Venus is here to harmonize and create unity. And so, we've got all these planets kind of, around and working in this area, but like Taurus is ruled by Venus. So, and Pisces is the sign where Venus is exalted. The only of the three signs where Mars is super powerful is obviously in this Aries sign, which is its home sign. So I just think these energies are all trying to kind of help initiate some of these more feminine principles and aspects of ourselves personally as well as collectively. So those are some things I kind of wanted to bring up because, this particular, transit or conjunction that's happening on Saturday is not one that happens often. It happens where these two planets come together. The last time it happened was in 2010. So that was 14 years ago. And that was in the sign of Aries. You can look, I specifically looked, it was June 8th of 2010, but it would have been pretty active the week before and after that because they are slower moving planets. So you can look back and see, what might have been happening there. But this is the first time these two planets are together in the sign of Taurus since 1941. And if we looked back at that time, there were definitely some disruptor things going on in our world, which you can clearly look at, and study if you'd like. But for now, let's just look at what was going on 14 years ago in our lifetime, and to give you a sense, around that period in June, how these play out. Again, that was in a fire sign. This is going to be in an earth sign. So it might bring something quite literally material. It could be an opportunity, around something that's like around money, something Venus ruled. So money, a relationship, maybe it's property, quite literally earthly property. But it could also be just anything where we are, where we need a breakthrough. Like I think, an actual breakthrough in our physical realm. So just something to note. So I'll be curious to see how does this play out for all of you, and it will continue to play out because again, it doesn't move super quickly through those areas, but the climax is basically this Saturday. So just know that that's coming. And then what's going to happen after that, the next day, so like I said, I wanted to just remind you that Mars is going to be sextiling, both Jupiter and Uranus. So I feel like it's in Pisces, so it's the spiritual energy, and activation that feels like it's really enhancing that conjunction that's happening there. And then the next day, Venus is going to, on Sunday, Venus will conjunct Chiron. So it does say to me that, like, again, Venus is now going to go, okay, tell me more about how we're going to heal. Tell me more about how we can harmonize. How can we take, these things that we've learned, actually apply them, and then be an alchemist in the sense of like allowing ourselves to help heal the world, heal our relationships. As it relates to Venus, that can also mean money. What are ways that perhaps that, the way that we've viewed money, handled money comes from a wounded place and may cause a lot of our own stresses, just that relationship in and of itself, rather than thinking of money as abundant. Venus will be, eventually, she's currently in Aries, but by the end of this month, she's going to move into Taurus, which again, she's exalted there. She loves being in Taurus. So I'm really hopeful this is a moment we can really start dropping that lack consciousness and embrace the sheer abundance that exists on this planet of love and fertility, of the earth and of truth and of just an abundance. Like there's abundance of energy. We tend to come to or think of a lot of things as there's a lack, and that's why we compete, like if that Aries quality, I'm going to fight for that, but from a Venus perspective, it's like, no, and specifically Taurus, when, I'm a gardener. You should see, actually, that's why my room is pink right now. I have all my seedlings over here. The amount that one seed, of fruit and vegetation, that one seed produces is literally the symbol of abundance and how Taurus represents abundance in our life. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to really highlight that for us, where we can kind of step into that idea and ground it, in the earth and start living from that place. So that's the one thing I wanted to note. And then on the 21st, that next day, the sun is going to square Pluto. So the sun will have just entered into Taurus. Woohoo! We love Taurus season. I love Taurus season. I'm a Taurus sun and moon, thus the gardening. So when the sun moves into Taurus, it's going to start squaring Pluto, who's in Aquarius, because those are the fixed signs. So that's a strong tension that's revealing truth. And I feel like, again, it's like just this, and because it's the sun, it's how are we going to embody that truth into self as we move forward. And then Mercury on the 25th is going to turn direct. Mars is going to enter Aries on the 30th. Venus is going to enter Taurus on the 29th. They both love being in those signs. So I just feel like there's going to be this like smooth, movement forward from that place. But like this is a moment of reflection and a time for us to sort of just pause. I know it's Aries season and it can have us feel this way, but I think that's why Mercury is retrograding there. I think that's why we've got Saturn and Mars at this time in Pisces, where it's not going to be moving too quickly, forward. It's a place that it's a bit slower. So that's just something to note. And ironically, before doing this recording, I was like, let me just, pull a tarot card, to see if there's any particular themes that, would want to be addressed or I should address in this particular, explanation, but also as some guidance for you as you're moving, through these weeks. And I pulled the Four of Swords. And, the Four of Swords actually is about taking a time out. It can sometimes represent, after we've been through a lot of stress and just this need for recovery. Sometimes it's just simply a time to just reflect and allow ourselves to receive, this insight and these epiphanies and things that we're meant to get at this time, that will help us not just move forward, but move forward in the way that we really desire, Venus and Taurus, So that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today. I'm hoping this makes some sense for you and you can start feeling how these planets all work together. And in my opinion, they're always working on our behalf. That doesn't mean they feel good, all the time, Many of us will have arguments in our relationships, but when we reflect and review, there is a very good opportunity that we will come to a deeper understanding with each other, Pluto square Sun, and we can move forward from a deeper, sense of truth and source of truth, and more within our own desire. We have a sense of our own desire, and we're moving forward with it. So that's kind of my interpretation of all of this right now, and I'd be really curious to see, how this plays out over the next week. But I would make sure you're keeping your eye out for some opportunities, that you are not numbing yourself too much right now, because for these ideas to drop in, you want to be clear and you want to be able to get them and receive them and then be able to activate them forward in your life. We all came here, and we're all here on the planet at this time for this exciting stuff. So again, it's not always fun, and there are things that can be very difficult. I don't want to undermine anyone who's going through extremely difficult times, because many of you are. But I like to look at our charts as this was the mission we wanted to go through, and in the kind of level of growth we wanted to go through. And I believe that this particular eclipse that went off with Chiron there is trying to remind us why healing is so good for us, how it will liberate us, similar to how Uranus is going to liberate us. To me, healing is a practice. It's a practice to stay connected to, because we are living in a world where so much of our ancestral trauma is like living out in the present right now. So much of the past is very much, how our world is governed. And so we can keep reliving all of that, and we need to break free and break through and liberate ourselves. And the only way that's going to happen is through action and change, and events that are going to push us forward to do that. So I hope this initiates a really wonderful new chapter in your life, whatever it is. I hope some beautiful opportunities make their way in. And at the very least, I hope you get to experience what expansion feels like somehow in your life somewhere. If you want to look at Taurus, where Taurus is in your chart. Like I said, if I haven't said it already, this conjunction is going to be going off at 21 degrees Taurus. So those of you that have anything near 21 degrees, particularly in the fixed signs, which would be Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius in Leo, you will feel this Saturday conjunction the strongest compared to anybody else. So just keep your ears out, keep your eyes out, keep your intuitive antennas up, and I wish you lots of blessings this week. Again, please share. Let me know what's going on, and I will be back for more pretty soon. Have a great day.